those of us invested in our own professional development can often find ourselves engaged in what I call just-in-case learning. The trouble is, the time and the effort that we invest is often wasted. My mum used to say that I was full of useless facts. She might still say that. Until the time came for a trivia night, kind of fundraiser, and people were fighting to have me on their table. I've spent heaps of time doing just-in-case learning, absorbing all sorts of random things like a sponge. As I continue to grow up, and I'm not sure that I'm there yet, I've found that just-in-time learning is far more helpful for my effectiveness. In this episode, I'll weigh up the pros and cons of just-in-case learning with just-in-time learning and help you decide when each of these will best serve you. Okay, quick basics lesson. What do I mean by learning? If you followed me for a while, you'll be familiar with the 70-20-10 learning concept. If that's new to you, go and listen to my interview with Charles Jennings. Quickly as a recap, 70-20-10 suggests that learning happens in different proportions based on the type of activity we're engaging in. A small proportion is from formal knowledge and education. A larger amount from social interactions, our managers, mentors, things like that. And the vast majority of our learning comes from real life, just doing stuff in practice. So let me begin by saying that my whole philosophy on development and growth is designed to support people like you to drag yourself away from the knowledge trap, that traditional learning or professional development, and into the more effective social and experiential learning realms. In fact, I'll be releasing a free short course early next year, which covers off a lot on that topic. That's early 2018. But I recognise that many of us still think about learning as a formal knowledge-based activity, consuming information, which is still important. So I want to meet you where you're at, if that's the starting point, and help you improve how you do just that. So just to be clear, this video, just for today, is specifically focused on formal knowledge type learning, okay? So what do I mean by just-in-case versus just-in-time learning? Well, they're probably pretty self-explanatory. Just-in-case learning is the things that we absorb as we go through life. They just pop up or they're placed in front of us. We pour this stuff into our head, which sort of goes into a general knowledge folder in our brains, and we may or may not access that again down the track. It's there just in case. Just-in-time learning, you could say, differs because of our intent. We are very clear about what we want to learn. We have a target or a goal and we hunt it down. We are in charge. An important difference with this versus just-in-case learning is that we're learning because we have the intention for action. We have some idea about how we're going to use or apply what we learn in some way, shape or form. Let me give you some examples. Remember, these are just the formal knowledge examples, and that's just a small proportion of our full learning potential. Just-in-case learning includes things like reading the industry magazine that we get each quarter, or email subscription news services like learning, legal updates, things like that. Scrolling through your LinkedIn feed is another example. Just absorbing what comes up, clicking through to articles and posts that take your fancy. Going to most conferences can be like this too, where you might have intent about one or two of the speakers, but there's a bunch of other stuff that you are just there absorbing because it's on the program. Now over to just-in-time learning. This might be searching a database for an article or a legal code or something like that. It could be going to a specific training course or workshop, or it might be reading a book specifically for a university assignment, or having a look at my podcast and choosing particular episodes. Just-in-time learning is the learning that you're in charge of. You do it because it helps you take some specific action. You know what you want and you hunt it down. You might do the learning to prepare for an action that's next week or next quarter or even in a year, but you know what you are working towards. So let's talk about the pros and cons of each of these. The defining characteristics, I think, are in four categories: the goal, the control, effectiveness, and growth. I've got a table summary of what I'm about to briefly explain in the free download for this episode. So safetyontap.com/Ep060 is where you get that. So first, the goal. The goal for just-in-case learning is just to consume something, just to fill a block of time. The goal for just-in-time learning is much clearer, usually connected with our work, a performance plan, a training needs analysis, or something like that. We know what we want. When it comes to who is in control, just-in-case learning leaves the control to someone else, like an editor of a publication, our boss telling us to do something, a conference organizer, or the algorithm that's behind the LinkedIn feed. Just-in-time learning means we take the control ourselves. We decide what we consume and when, although the specific content is still up to someone else. Together, goal and control combined mean that just-in-time learning has far greater intent than does just-in-case learning. Next, we've got effectiveness. I define effectiveness of learning as the extent to which our performance improves as a result. So you'll realise that just-in-case learning then is far less effective because we have little intent. Like Lewis Carroll said, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which road you take. That's not to say that it won't help you by chance down the track, but often by the time we need what we learned just in case, we need to brush up on it anyway. Just-in-time learning, on the other hand, should increase our performance because we know what we want and how it's going to help. And finally, let's think about how growth happens from each of these. This is a major differentiator. Just-in-case learning has the distinct advantage of allowing us to be surprised, to explore unknown unknowns, to find new horizons and ideas and perspectives and stories. I touch on that in episode 58 called Look Up and Out. So when it comes to growth, I call this windy growth. Just-in-case learning, just-in-time learning, I should say, as intentional as it is, means that we get what we want, no more and hopefully no less. But it's based on what we already know, which might be limiting. It still helps us towards our goals that we want, and so I call this straight line growth. So this is not an either-or situation. Those of you who know me know that I have a bias towards action, but I enjoy a random exploration of new things as well. I just balance just-in-case learning with just-in-time learning. I feel like many of us get sucked into too much just-in-case learning, and we feel like our time is well spent, but it may not be. My hunch is that a little more just-in-time learning, coupled with good social and experiential learning, is a better recipe for our own growth and success. So let's reflect. How much of the knowledge-based learning of the past week or month or year for you has been just-in-case or just-in-time? Use the worksheet from safetyontap.com/EP060 to jot down what you did, how much time you spent on it, and use the definitions there to work out whether it was just in case or just in time. Be honest with yourself and see what the balance is and decide whether it's right for you and what you might do to improve your learning balance next year. Getting that balance right will increase your learning and your performance to enable more positive, effective, and rewarding action to grow yourself and drastically improve health and safety along the way. See ya.